Hey everybody, it's Ryan Metzler here again, and today we're going to check out a game that has recently seen a lot of press, and that game is Istanbul by AEG, originally published by Pegasus Spiel, and the recent winner of the Kenner Spiel Award, which is the medium to heavy game of the year in Germany. This is a movement game in which you're moving a pile of your own kind of merchants and assistants around the board, activating different buildings in order to try and collect resources and money to get gems. And it's kind of a race to the end. Whoever gets the set amount of gems first will be the winner. So real quick, why don't we take a look at what comes inside this box? We'll see how the game plays, and we'll come back here at the end and get my opinions on Istanbul. So here you can see the board for Istanbul, all set up for a 4-player game. Now the idea of this game is pretty simple. Each player will have their own little tableau that looks like this, and they are trying to collect gems faster than everyone else. You need to collect 5 gems in all games except for the 2-player game, in which you need to collect 6 gems. Also on this board is going to be an area for tracking what resources you have: blue, red, green, and yellow. And as you get resources, you'll move these up, and as you spend them, you'll move them down. You'll also note that there's a blank area here which can hold additional kind of slots for holding more resources. As you build up, you can collect more resources and hold them so that you can spend them for things later. Now, the basis of the game is going to be moving around this board, and you'll see this board has 16 different buildings on it. Each player is represented by a merchant, which looks like this, and 4 assistants, which are littler discs that are underneath the merchant. On your turn, you're going to be moving around, and you can move 1 or 2 spaces. When you move, you're going to pick up your entire pile, and you're going to move it 1 to 2 spaces, eventually landing somewhere and dropping off one of your assistants. Alternatively, if it's later in the game, you can actually move back and pick up an assistant, and this will allow you to take a move. You'll note that as you do this, you may run out of assistants. As you continue to move around and drop them off, eventually you will have no assistants with you. If you decide to make a move, moving 1 or 2 spaces, and you're not able to drop off or pick up an assistant, your turn will end immediately and you won't get an action. Otherwise, whatever spot you land on is going to give you an action, and that action is going to be based on the building that you land at. In this case, we've landed at the fruit warehouse, and it says that I get to max out my yellow goods, so I would slide my yellow goods all the way to the max. Now, real quickly, let's cover what the other buildings do so you can get an idea. There are 2 other buildings that get you goods. You'll see that there's the spice warehouse, which maxes out green, and we have the fabric warehouse, which maxes out your red goods. Those are going to let you get goods that you will spend for other things. You can see we have a small and a great mosque, and these have tiles that you can buy by trading in goods. This one here costs you 2 red. These will give you a special ability throughout the game. For example, the red tile gives you the ability to either set a die when you need to roll one, or to re-roll dice once, whereas the green one gives you the ability to buy extra resources whenever you gain some for 2 money. When you collect both of the tiles that are on one of these, you'll see that you get a ruby. So if you got both the red and the green, you'd take the ruby and put it on your track and be 1/5 of the way, or 1/6 of the way, towards winning the game. As people buy these, they get more expensive, so the next would cost 3, and then 4 red goods, and all the way up to 5 for the last player to get one. Landing on the post office is going to get you all of the depicted goods, in this case, a green, a yellow, and 2 money. Once you take that, you're going to slide down the first of these cubes, and now the next person will get a red, 2 money, and a yellow, and so forth and so on. Those will slide down. Landing on the police station will allow you to send your family member to any other spot on the board, activating that spot. Other players can then land where your family member is and send them back to the police station. They get arrested, and they'll get a bonus for doing so, either some money or the ability to draw a bonus card that they can use. The gemstone dealer will require you to trade in money in order to get gems, of course. So 12 money for the first person to get there, 13 for the next, 14, and so forth and so on up as people buy them. So collecting money to buy gemstones may be a good way to get you towards winning the game. The large market and the small market are going to allow you to trade goods in for money. And when you land here with one of your assistants, you're going to be able to trade in 1 good of the type shown for 3 money, 2 for 7, 3 for 12, and so forth and so on. And the same is true for the small market, but they usually take cheaper goods and will give you less money. We've already covered these here, but then we have the tea house, which is kind of a gambling area. When you land here and drop off or pick up an assistant, you're going to be able to make a bet. You'll bet a number between 3 and 12. You will then roll the dice, or if you have the ability to modify your rolls, you can do that, but you'll roll the dice and see what you rolled. If you rolled greater than or equal to your bet, you will get that much money. But if you didn't, if you lost the bet, you will get 2 money, so at least there's a consolation prize. Landing on the Caravanserai will get you the ability to draw 2 of these bonus cards and keep 1. These cards will give you various different effects. For example, this one will let you move 3 or 4 instead of just 1 or 2 on your turn. Or this one here says that you can go ahead and put your family member in jail on your own and then take a bonus card or 3 money. Others may give you goods or straight up money, and then you'll discard the other one right here, which players could then choose from later. The Sultan's Palace will let you trade in goods, the goods shown, for a ruby. So if you have a blue, a red, a green, and a yellow, you can trade them in and get this ruby. And then the next player would have to trade in those 4 goods, plus 1 of any other good in order to get their ruby. The Wainwright is going to let you pay $7 to expand your ability to hold goods. And when you do this, you'll put this into your own little board area. And if you manage to get all 3 of yours, you'll get a gem. And each player that gets all 3 will get their gem in order in which they get it. Again, we have the Great Mosque, which will require you to pick up the blue and yellow tiles in order to get your gem, giving you having to pay the goods in order to pick them up that are depicted on the card. This one will get you a 5th assistant, which will go underneath your merchant, and you can travel around a little bit more before you need to pick them up. The other one will give you the ability to pay $2 any turn that you would like once in order to bring one of your assistants back to your merchant so that you can kind of recall them without having to go back to the fountain. The fountain here says that when you go back here, it will recall all of your assistants to your merchant. So this is kind of a reset, but gets you no additional action. Finally, we have the black market, which is the only way to get blue goods. The black market says that you get here, when you go here, you get a red, a green, a yellow, and then you roll 2 dice. Dependent on what you roll, in this case I rolled a 6, I would get no blue, but a 7 and an 8 would get me 1, a 9 or a 10 would get me 2, and an 11 and 12 would get me 3 blue goods. Now, there are a few other caveats on moving. If you ever move to somewhere and encounter somebody else's merchant, you must pay that merchant $2. And that's true for every merchant that you land on a spot with. So if there were 3 other merchants here and I moved there, I'd have to pay out $6 to those merchants in order to get and land on this spot. In addition, you'll note that there are these couple other pawns. There's a purple pawn and a black pawn. The purple is the governor and the black is the smuggler. If you land on one of these spaces, you may do an extra action, and that extra action is to either pay 2 money or to give something up. But basically, you can take a bonus card and discard a card with the governor. That would give you the ability to kind of cycle bonus cards through, or you can pay 2 money and just keep both of your cards. Alternatively, with the smuggler, you can pay 2 money and take a good, or you can take a good and give back a different good in order to get a kind of switch out of the goods that you have. Either way, if you decide to do this, you're going to roll 2 dice, and these guys will relocate on the board. This one would move to 10, so we would find building 10, and he would move there in order for somebody else to find him later. And of course, I can't find 10 right now, the large market. He'd land there, and somebody else could go ahead and try and catch him later in order to get his ability. So, of course, you realize that you're going to be moving around the board on subsequent turns, of course, dropping off your assistants and taking the ability of whatever tile you land on, trying to most efficiently find a path around this board where you can drop off and pick up your assistants in order to take abilities that are going to allow you to accumulate wealth, accumulate goods, and, of course, buy gems, which is the goal. There is a start player in the game, and that start player will also be the ending point of the game. So when somebody collects their 5 gems, each player gets an extra turn, or gets their full round of turns, I should say. So everybody will always have an equal number of turns, and of course, the player who has the most gems wins. And then there's tiebreakers after that, if there is indeed a tie, which I have not seen yet. But essentially, you want to try and manage where your family members are, utilizing those. Of course, sending them back for other players is good because they get a bonus, but it also enables a player to send their guy out to anywhere and sometimes avoid paying merchant fees where other players are kind of landed on a spot and you don't want to pay the money. You can just send your family member out. So it's all about finding an optimal route around, interacting with other players and trying to prevent them from doing what you would like to do or from getting gems faster than you, and of course, getting enough gems in order to win the game. Well, there you have it. That is Istanbul, a game that I was pretty excited to get my hands on, and thanks to AEG for sending me a review copy of it. This is a game that I played first and thought was very, very interesting. I was very excited about it. I was pretty sure it was going to win the Kennerspiel, and it did. So I guess I was right there. The game has a lot going on. You're moving around and you're trying to interact with these different buildings, trying to avoid other players, or sometimes get in other players' way in order to make them pay you so that they may use a building that you're on. Of course, race to different areas in order to get access to them, be it the governor or the smuggler, try and send them back, utilize your family member as best as possible, and find the best kind of closed circle that you can make in order to optimize your board movement in order to get those gems. And with that said, I think it has great potential there. I've played it several times now, and I think it plays out very nice. It's very streamlined, easy to learn with a lot of strategy. However, I must qualify that a little bit because every game I've played so far has one issue, and that issue is a runaway leader issue to an extent. I don't think I've ever seen a game so far in at least 5 or 6 plays with different groups where I've been in all of them, you know, oftentimes there's new players involved, and that may be part of the problem, but I don't think I've ever seen a situation where one player has won the game and another player has been close. Usually they're 2 to even 3 gems behind, and perhaps this is because of the new player effect. I'm always playing with new people, teaching new people, and maybe they're avoiding interaction too much. I don't know, and I can't speak to that for this game. If I had a group that played the same game regularly and consistently, perhaps it would even itself out, and we'd see more interaction where there's not as much of a runaway problem. But this is something I've heard from other players where they're seeing this little bit of a runaway issue where one player seems to dominate, get ahead, and they don't seem to really be stoppable. With that said, I do believe that a little bit more interaction and some more seasoned players with the game will kind of curtail that a little bit and make the game more fun or closer, at least in terms of the end game condition. What else? Well, I like the fact that the board is modular. I've actually never played with the suggested starting setup. We kind of leapt right into the random setup where you can place the boards wherever you like. And I love the fact that every game you have a different setup. I didn't show it in my video, but the boards are... Each little building is its own separate entity that can be moved around the board, and so each different layout has to be figured out and what's the optimal route. So all in all, a very good game. I'm not trying to put the game down at all. I think that it probably did deserve its win of the Kenner Spiel, at least amongst the nominees that were up this year. Kudos to AEG and Pegasus Spiel for getting that done. And I think that it's a game that has quite a bit of strategy and can definitely be fixed in terms of the runaway leader problem if you have a group that's willing to play the same game over and over again and learn each other's play styles. So if that sounds good to you, I'm keeping the game. I enjoy it quite a bit and hope to get to that point. Check it out. That is Istanbul.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock.